pictures of the camp there that we're seeing from that Texas DPS helicopter, it reminds of some of the camps that we've seen that have been set up across the border from a country in the throes of civil war. And I'm wondering, you know, aside from the health aspect there, we see lines of porta potties, but they're not going to handle 20,000 people. Aside from the budding health problem there, what is the disposition of these migrants going to be if there's not enough people from Border Patrol or Customs and Border Protection to process them? What will happen to them?
We don't know. What we've been told from agents is these people are not technically detained. If they want to go, they can go. What these people are doing is they're waiting under the bridge, waiting to be processed by Border Patrol. Border Patrol has to take them into a facility and do the paperwork and everything. That hasn't happened yet. All those people you see under the bridge have not been processed yet. They're just congregating under the bridge, using it for shade because it's so hot out here, and they're waiting for Border Patrol to process them. And what I've been told from border agents on the ground is once the people show up, they come up to Border Patrol and they take a ticket, kind of like you're waiting for a pizza or something, and they'll call your order. Once that happens, you get put into a certain sector of the camp, and they've got a wet board up front where they're trying to keep track of how many people come in. And the last count we had was at least 10,503 people. That was as of last night. I'm trying to get some new numbers for today. I think it's safe to say these numbers are probably pushing at least 11,000. Again, we're coming back over the Rio Grande right now, and this is a never-ending stream of people who are illegally crossing into the U.S. from Ciudad Acuña. And it's remarkable to see that there's obviously zero action being taken on the Mexican side. We don't see any Mexican federales or police or immigration authorities down there trying to stop this in any way. You might remember a couple times when we've been out here in Del Rio before, and we've shown some river crossings. The Mexican Marines showed up real quick when we were doing live shots there. That they kind of plugged it up real quick. We're not seeing any similar action from the Mexicans right now because there's just a constant stream of people coming in from the Mexican side. I'm looking at a trail of them right now, and just illegally entering the U.S. And then on the U.S. side, we obviously don't have the Border Patrol manpower to have people right at the edge of the water, you know, detaining these people or apprehending them. So they're trying to let them all congregate under the bridge where they have them in one location. And again, what we're being told is a large majority of these migrants are coming in from Haiti. And you're going to have some serious COVID concerns down there under that bridge because Haiti as a country has a COVID-19 vaccination rate of less than 1%. So you can imagine, even though it's outdoors with that many people crammed in together down there, you're probably looking at some serious potential health issues down there, guys.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, keep the pictures going. Just want to bring Tom Homan back in. And Tom, the question to you that I asked Bill, what's next here? What's the disposition of these illegal migrants going to be? Obviously not eligible. All of them will be eligible to stay in the United States. Will they put them on planes and send them back to Haiti? What will happen?
Well, that's on the administration's position right now. For instance, something that's not being talked about is the Remain in Mexico program that a court ordered them to put back in place is about people waiting for asylum cases, right? So what are these groups doing now? What are the cartels doing now to tell them don't claim asylum? So the Remain in Mexico program can't get put back in place. You got to go back and wait for your hearing. I've talked to senior Border Patrol officials. Says a lot of these people are no longer claiming asylum. They just enter the country illegally. They could be expedited removed. There's a process within 24 hours to remove them. The administration is releasing them. So the administration has taken no enforcement action. They're even releasing more people than did prior to Remain in Mexico program. And look, right, based on the last month's data, 18 to 20% of these people have COVID. So if you got 10,000 under the bridge, you know at least 1,000 are active COVID cases. They will be released, either to an NGO or to ICE to put in a facility to spread COVID more. And let's not forget the national security concern here. When they have to pull all the Border Patrol agents in to process these people, like I said earlier, you got to pull them off the line. 350,000 gotaways. The Border Patrol arrested 11 people on the terrorist screening database, 11 people on the FBI watch list. How many of that 350,000 were on that same watch list but didn't get caught and didn't get detained? This humanitarian crisis has created a public safety crisis. It created a public health crisis because of COVID and the amount of fentanyl coming across at 90,000 overdose deaths. It's a national security issue because the commander told me, Broken Arrow, we have lost operational control. So the cartels want to take advantage of half the Border Patrol not on the line and move drugs, move gang members, move criminals, and for God's sakes, would-be terrorists. that want to come to this country to do us harm. 1,000 terrorists released from Afghanistan prisons, whose sole purpose in life is to destroy this nation. You don't think they're watching TV? They see what's going on. If you want to get to the United States, go to the southern border, because half the border patrol is not on the line. This crisis has turned into a national security crisis of huge proportions. And the Biden administration, to this day, refuses to take enforcement action.
Tom, if you can hang with us, I want to go back to Bill Melugin on a point that you just made. Bill, yesterday you reported Governor Abbott's statement that the Biden administration had at first offered to help Texas with closing points of entry at the border, but then reversed their decision 6 hours later and flip-flopped on that strategy that the governor said abandons border strategy. How much does Texas need help from the Biden administration right now, given this situation? What are you hearing from DPS and from officials in that state about the limits of what they can do?
Jack,
Bill, you with us?
Are you talking to Tom?
No, we're talking to you, Bill.
I'm sorry. Well, what border agents need is a heck of a lot more manpower, and they need more infrastructure. I mean, their holding facilities out here in Del Rio can only hold, a few thousand or so. You got about 11,000 under the bridge right now, and they need more manpower. I mean, it doesn't even matter if they got a few hundred agents down here. When you're dealing with 11,000 people, I mean, we're talking about the size of a college basketball arena underneath that bridge right now. And the agents we've been talking to are just exacerbated with frustration. They feel like they've already been turned into social workers or administrative assistants just doing paperwork. They feel they're no longer on the front lines actually patrolling the border, trying to catch the bad guys coming in illegally, bringing drugs in, smugglers, that sort of a thing. What they're having to do now is use all of their time and resources basically being babysitters for these family units that come across and require all sorts of paperwork. So what happens when that happens? It leaves our border exposed and unpatrolled in other areas. And that's one of the things that agents have been telling us is so frustrating is parts of our border are just open and unpatrolled because so many of them have been pulled off the front lines. And I mean, what you're looking at happening in Del Rio right now, these hundreds of people just streaming in every minute here, it's just remarkable. And this has been going on for the better part of 6 months now. The numbers have just been shooting through the roof. And there's been really no clear change in policy. I know a Supreme Court just ruled that remain in Mexico has to be reinstated, but the Mexicans have to agree to that. They have to have the infrastructure on their side. And border agents have been telling us that's just not in place yet. People aren't being returned to Mexico yet. They're sometimes being taken back on buses via Title 42, but that's only about 60%. It's been said that about 40% of the people will get released with an NTA or an NTR and a court date in the future in the United States. Some of them never show up again. And wow, I mean, I'm looking at this neighborhood, Brian. If we can pan down here really quick, more cars are pulling up here in Ciudad Acuña. More lines of people showing up. It's pretty wild to see this. And again, zero action from the Mexican side. It's incredible, guys. I mean, hundreds of people just keep pulling up in that neighborhood, getting out of vans, and constantly crossing the Rio Grande and then showing up under that bridge there. So you can see Border Patrol bus pulling up right there. Those buses only seat about 70, 80, I believe, if they're at full capacity. They're going to need a lot more buses. The problem is, where are those buses going to take them to? The local holding facilities are